Delete laws, funding drama, and Saturday goose eggs. On the first of two live streams Saturday night into Sunday morning, Delete Law's Jose Chili de Castro reminded his fans that he was being forced to raise the pricing of his indestructible trifolds from $12 to $15, with $11 shipping and handling as of Monday morning. De Castro's cost struggles follow a pattern of De Castro ignoring the past concerns of former financial advisors who had told him that lowering the prices of the trifold and 5A cop cards would not offset costs in the production of the merchandise. The YouTuber apparently wasn't filming from his new studio in the Hollywood area, as he was concerned about becoming overexcited as there were others around him sleeping. He attempted to keep his nerves calm during the entire broadcast, going so far as not to name other auditors who may upset him when he was discussing qualified immunity versus Terry versus Ohio, leaving them named as other famous people. De Castro announced that soon all of his videos would be over on his Patreon, which would feature uncensored versions of his work for a starting point of $10 a month. As of Sunday morning, De Castro has had 3 paid memberships on that site out of 34 total members, and is estimated to be pulling in $27 a month after Patreon costs, based on his current membership levels. It's interesting to note that despite De Castro pushing his Patreon as the place for investors to come and invest in his product, no one has taken him up on the $1,000 a month investor level membership, despite his claims that he has people knocking on his door looking for investment opportunities. Changing subjects, De Castro cheered on longtime fan and moderator Mikey B, who claimed in a message displayed by De Castro that he had just filed unlawful arrest and imprisonment charges against police for a recent arrest. De Castro then pulled up ChatGPT and showed his fans how to get ChatGPT to produce property return forms, body cam requests, and other legal documents. The YouTuber added that his friend Zane Kane once used ChatGPT to write an entire federal civil rights lawsuit that apparently impressed a judge. Commenting on his great fame, De Castro warned that he was so well known that social media companies were conspiring against him to hold back his business and his growing movement. De Castro cited his loss of TikTok and Instagram accounts and how he was being shadow banned by YouTube at the moment as examples of how social media was punishing him for his great fame. He warned that he was being forced to go to Patreon and his new channel that would be released in a week or two as his only means to survive financially. De Castro did not update the status of great friend Michael Eline, who De Castro previously announced having a 1-week YouTube ban for unspecified reasons. Adding to the financial woes of auditors, we'll end the column with a note that for the first time in months, none of the GoFundMe accounts that we follow took in a donation, meaning that we had a goose egg Sunday. If 7 of these happen in a row, this column will be retired, and Jim can be free to find a new filler column to start the newscast with, though we'll have to find new ways to promote the GoFundMe to keep the newspaper alive. On that note, if you'd like to continue to force Jim into having to write this column each and every day, you can contribute to our GoFundMe run by the channel. All proceeds count in the tally. There's no goose egg sweep as long as one fund gets a donation, and go to keeping lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Audit Them audits Oak Brook Terrace Police Department. The auditor known as Audit Them took to the police department in Oak Brook Terrace, Illinois, in a new video released to his channel on Saturday, featuring his usual look for materials that should be on display to the public according to Illinois state statutes. Audit Them encountered Patrol Sergeant Hilton, who was on duty in the lobby of the station for the day. After some feeling out by the officer, who was unsure of the things that Audit Them was saying, due to his strange accent and stranger actions, the two men came to an accord. Hilton eventually agreed to get all of the required information that Audit Them claimed was in the statute. While Audit Them agreed not to demand a printout of the material at that moment, he also said that his real goal for asking for printouts would then be to ask the person who handed him the printout for Scotch tape and then post the information himself in the building to fulfill the requirements of the statute. While this was not an option at the current Audit Them agreed that he will return in the future for a follow-up audit. He informed Sergeant Hilton that he would be performing several more audits in the area before making his return trip to the building. Audit Them gave the Oakbrook Terrace Police Department a failing grade, but did not indicate that he was going to send that failing grade to the Illinois Attorney General. He seemed to be impressed by Sergeant Hilton's attempts to work with him, and we'll see what his follow-up session brings. As normal with recent audits, Audit Them admitted that he was working for himself, again implying that it was today only, and later explained to his viewers what he meant by that as he walked back to his car. He explained, "Today I'm just a member of the public. What I mean by that is that's true today. I'm a regular member of the public. That's not saying that tomorrow I may be. Well, tomorrow, meaning the near future, I may be in office. Right, I may be working. I may be elected. I may be working in office. I may be elected. So that's why I say today I'm a regular member of the public. 'Cause who knows what the near future, I might run for office." Audit Them is expected to continue to his audit tour of Illinois later this week. Delete Laws seeks officers in West Hollywood. Social media icon and scorn of police lovers across the world, Delete Laws Chile DeCastro walked the streets of West Hollywood early Sunday morning in search of contact with police officers who he had hoped to convince to stop using handcuffs to detain suspects of crimes. DeCastro encountered a group of police officers responding to a domestic incident within an apartment complex. As one of the officers recognized DeCastro, the YouTuber pretended to remember which of the thousands of officers the officer was until being reminded of the circumstances of their last encounter. The officer, joined by a second officer, was willing to entertain DeCastro's thoughts as they patiently waited for other officers to exit the building. The usual pitches came out: torture cuffs are always torture, digital detainment will work in 90% of crimes, some people need to be shot by police, etc. A newer idea that DeCastro has begun to promote didn't go over as well with his audience. That was the idea that if someone is placed in handcuffs, they immediately and forever hate the police for having been put in chains. DeCastro seemed to cling to the idea and even said that he was filming a new series to show police how they were doing things wrong and how his approaches would better suit the public. He said he found a place to rent cheap police outfits before catching himself and saying that he was revealing too much to his home audience. DeCastro briefly described another newish idea that police should be fired if they ever shut off their body cams, which brought a joking response by one of the officers that he wouldn't be comfortable when he was getting dressed or using the bathroom. As an alternative, DeCastro brought up his idea of forcing police to wear helmets that recorded the 360-degree angle around the officer's body to capture their every move while on duty. Again, an idea which did not receive a positive response from the officers. After wrapping up with the officers who refused to advance his ideas with their superiors, DeCastro mentioned to his viewers that he lived in Manhattan for a year in 2012, countering previous claims of 10 years of living in New York City, and then got his dog Charlie out of the parked van. Charlie was allowed to run around without a leash before DeCastro entered the stream and returned to his vehicle. Delete Laws DeCastro's decline continues. Recently reminiscing on life, Jose Chile de Castro, aka Delete Laws, stated that he was once viewed by millions of people a month, he had tremendous influence, and he was recognized wherever he went and was now just a normal person because of the horrific shadow banning undertaken by YouTube and a conspiracy by social media companies to hold him down. DeCastro indicated that because of this massive conspiracy, he needed all of his supporters to immediately make the jump to his new Patreon to see his uncensored material at a cost of $10 a month for membership or $10 per video without a membership. The Sly DeCastro so far has released minute-long YouTube shorts on the new Patreon as his primary releases, meaning that it is more likely that part of his faithful have already paid $10 for a 1-minute video. As of Monday morning, his mass departure from YouTube has brought him a grand total of 35 total members, 4 paid memberships, and an estimate of making $36 a month from the Patreon from paid memberships. DeCastro has yet to put out any of the content from his YouTube channel onto his new Patreon account, including all of the live streams from this weekend. He also added none of the content from American Patriot Forever or anything more than the 2 YouTube shorts that are not exclusive to the platform. Patreon does not allow for direct live streaming on the service through the Patreon software. Live streaming is done through other software, and while you can have a live stream post, that link will always be a pass-through to another provider. With DeCastro's current setup, he'd be mirroring his YouTube live streams at best, with no advantage other than the possibility to monetize the link on Patreon to non-members. His only option would be to make every live stream unlisted on YouTube and then providing the link on Patreon. It would be hard to find a way that the work of offering live streams live on Patreon would ever be worth it for DeCastro. Which brings us to DeCastro's current YouTube content, not yet available to his paid members on Patreon. DeCastro streamed Sunday night, featuring essentially old video footage of police officers acting in ways DeCastro disagreed with. The live stream started with a 25-minute video featuring an ancient DeCastro encounter with police and ended with DeCastro's apparent sociopathic tendencies in an old video from American Patriot. The YouTuber announced he was still carrying 20 pounds of fat from jail, but then, even out of shape, a trained fighter in his 30s might be able to take him out. Maybe. He said that his new studio in Los Angeles was almost done, and he was putting a toilet and plumbing in this week. Finally, he would be announcing action involving Justice of the Peace Ann Zimmerman later this week. DeCastro's announcements had no impact on the GoFundMe market, which he claims he's pulled out of, as our own ongoing expenses fund tied with Long Island Audit's Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption campaign, both taking in $10 for Sunday. On that same subject, if you'd like to lift our spirits and help us with our ongoing expenses as we recover from 5 Floyd Wallace live streams in 3 days, or to keep the bastard Jim Finch writing this dreadful column each day, you can contribute to the GoFundMe run by this very channel. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Wallace announces plans to procreate. In a whirlwind of emotions and announcements over the past few days, an increasingly desperate Floyd Wallace has been live streaming near constantly as he attempts to raise $78 he says he needs to pay for the second half of his Airbnb payment. It's unclear if he means for a second Airbnb to use as a decoy for his next trip to Colombia, which is currently scheduled for October 25th, or if it's the second half of the payment due for the Airbnb that he said he was paying for on one of his many live streams over the weekend. Wallace has increasingly turned to constant live streaming as a source of solace over the past week. At one point during a stream, pulling out a self-harm prevention hotline card and telling his fans that he had dark thoughts, but it was okay because the hotline is there for when he needs to talk, as he has no real friends. The YouTuber explained that he has permanent mental illness and at one point was getting disability from the United States federal government of a $1,000 a month check to help him with living expenses. That payment ended as he made too much money from his YouTube channels, and he claimed that he had been unsuccessfully fighting to get the payment back now that his YouTube fame has diminished. Wallace, on the same stream, showed off his bedroom in his current apartment. He said that he had destroyed his bed frame by falling on it, and that he didn't own sheets or a blanket because he was poor. He told his audience that he slept in his clothes and that he was never cold. It is of note that Wallace has been wearing the same green shirt and jeans since Friday, despite 3 days passing. He also revealed that he was increasingly dependent on wearing his prescription glasses as his, quote, eye vision was going away. Turning to the near future, Wallace revealed that he wanted to have children in the near future and that the children would live in whatever third world country he was living in at the moment. In the past, Wallace marveled about how easy it would be to escape responsibility for children born outside the United States, as there were no real child support laws that he was aware of that would apply to Americans. It is unclear if Wallace, who is currently planning on leaving the United States for a year-long extended sex tour of Colombia and Brazil, was serious about the possibility of abandoning an offspring. However, Wallace has become increasingly reflective of his sexual conquests, claiming to bed over 100 women and wondering how none of them have become pregnant with his child. Turning to his plans at Colombia, he assured his followers that despite hiring the woman known as the Stud to be his personal driver during his time in the country, she will not be on camera other than in passing. She made the request not to be featured, following backlash from Wallace's followers, who wanted to see him bed someone hotter. There has also been some clarification as to his status for his charges in Oklahoma. Wallace is now set for plea and sentencing on Tuesday, November 12, 2024 in Norman, Oklahoma on a single charge of obstructing an officer. Wallace is currently scheduled to take a blind plea at the hearing. A blind plea is like a no contest where Wallace will admit his guilt and then essentially beg the judge to go easy on him based on mitigating circumstances. This typically happens when an official plea deal can't be reached with the prosecutor, and both sides allow the judge to determine what punishment Wallace will receive. The current charge carries a maximum of 1 year in jail and a $500 fine under Oklahoma law. Adding a twist to this comes Wallace's latest claims that he will be filing his current attorney specifically to delay the hearing, openly stating that he'd rather have a January court date as not to interrupt his sex tour of Colombia. He then would be able to go to Brazil, which he claims he is eligible to return in mid-January, for his planned 9-month sex tour once he served whatever time, if any, he received from the sentencing from his current case. Wallace has already live-streamed again since we've gone to press, and we'll have coverage of that stream in tomorrow's edition of Auditing Insanity. Aggressive Henry confronts security. First Amendment Auditor Craig Henry released a produced video on Sunday featuring a screaming confrontation between Henry and a security guard at a courthouse in Olney, Illinois, as the security guard attempted to stop him from entering a private area of the building. Henry became aggressive when a security guard asked him not to go past a security station at the back of the building in order to access the city clerk's office. The YouTuber started to scream at the officer that if he touched Henry, Henry would respond to protect himself, and indicated that he would knock the security guard down with one punch. The security guard remained calm in the situation, while Henry continued to scream and protest not being allowed in the private area. To de-escalate the situation, the county clerk stepped in and brought Henry into her office, where Henry attempted to make a FOIA request. The clerk explained that all the FOIA requests in the county were handled online, as Henry pretended that he did not have access to a computer at home and insisted that the clerk print out a copy of the FOIA form. Henry's continued filming in the private area resulted in the workers in that area protesting Henry's filming of them, denying consent to be filmed, which Henry laughed at and then left the private office. After a jump cut, a local police officer was on the scene. The YouTuber told the officer that it was for your benefit, that he was only filing a verbal report and not a written report. He again said he'd defend himself any way he felt fit if anyone, including the police officer, touched him, as he filed a verbal complaint against the security officer for originally blocking him from accessing the court clerk's private office. The YouTuber then challenged the idea that there are private areas in a public building, such as the courthouse, to the police officer, and that he believed that as a taxpayer who helped pay for the building, there should be no areas that are off limits to him or his camera. Henry then filmed himself going up to the second floor, where he encountered a judge who promptly threw him out of the building for recording. The encounter with the judge or ejection from the building was not featured on Henry's video. The YouTuber explained that there was a 25-minute cut as he dealt with the ramifications of the judge's illegal action. He then re-entered the building and complained loudly to the police officer that in Illinois law, the same law he tried to apply to his contempt charges in Indiana for filming in a courtroom, gave him the right to film anywhere he pleased, including within the court. Attempting to de-escalate the situation, the police officer gave Henry his business card, and Henry promised to email him the law that proved everything he was saying was correct, and that the police officer would soon agree with him and stop enforcing the judge's illegal orders. Henry himself declined to challenge the judge's orders, explaining to his friend on the scene that he had already been persecuted in Indiana by authorities and could not afford an arrest in Illinois before ending the video. Delete Laws holds Hurricane fundraiser. Returning to his fundraising roots, Delete Laws' Jose Chile de Castro went live 2 times on Monday as part of a fundraiser he claimed he was holding for YouTuber Alan Hubbs, who would take all the money that was raised and buy groceries with it and personally distribute the groceries to victims of Hurricane Helene, which recently hit North Carolina. De Castro made the initial announcement of the fundraiser in a Monday afternoon live stream. He gave his fans the notice that instead of giving the money raised to the Red Cross or any of the other established charities helping victims in the area, he would just transfer all the money raised by the fundraiser to Hubbs, who would then go to Walmart, load up his truck, and then personally distribute items how he saw fit. Once the live stream began, De Castro, as he normally does, began to go off topic. As he raised money, he said that he was embarrassed by the turnout, which saw a total of 93 people attend across all of the platforms he was streaming on. De Castro blamed the low numbers on a vast governmental conspiracy against him that was too fearful that he would win the governorship of a state he hadn't yet announced and change the world as we know it. That conspiracy was also behind taking down his TikTok accounts in the past and, more recently, deleting his widely popular Instagram account. The YouTuber announced that he had no choice based on the numbers he was seeing last night but to shut down his current Delete Laws account and open a new YouTube channel, promising to do so when he launched his new Constitutional Law Scholar board game later this year. According to De Castro's calculations, he brought in $1,300 for the hurricane victims in North Carolina in the hour he set aside for the fundraiser. During that time, he also said that when his fans donated, they needed to indicate in the notes fields that they were giving him the money as a hurricane donation, so he could show the money was for a charity on his taxes. De Castro also again claimed poverty was preventing him from giving more than $100 towards the fundraiser. He said that the conspiracy against his channel started in very early September, and that's when Team DLZ noticed a significant drop in his viewership. He pulled up his YouTube metrics and began to show proof of his troubles since the start of September. As our own readers know, we've been documenting De Castro's decline, and that it began in late August, around the start of back-to-school events. The fall in viewership impacted all the auditors in the field, with a significant drop-off for everyone involved. While De Castro seems to be the only First Amendment auditor who is still free-falling in average growth since August, an unknown event on the YouTube platform in August at least temporarily flatlined growth for the entire industry. According to Playbill, De Castro is indeed hurting with his revenue from Super Chats sitting at under $1,900 for the month of September. His donations from last night brought his total for the month up to $600 in Super Chats, which both seem small for a channel that has over 620,000 subscribers. De Castro has made around $48,000 this year from Super Chats alone. Between the $48,000 and the $57,135 from his GoFundMe intake, De Castro has made roughly $101,135 from fan-made donations. That's not counting donations from his PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App accounts, let alone the revenue that he's brought in from his Google AdSense off his videos and his Trifold 5A Cop card and other merchandise sales. Both the original stream announcing the event and DeCastro's actual fundraising live stream have been made private by DeCastro as of press time. DeCastro still has yet to return to the GoFundMe market, which put up goose eggs again for the day with no new revenue taken in by any of the accounts we follow, including our own. On that note, if you'd like to donate to help pay for the pet steps we bought Helen to help her get up on our cat castle, rather than climbing up on our desk and knocking everything over in the process as part of Amazon's deal days, or just to keep the dramatic Jim Finch writing this dreadful column each day, you can contribute to the GoFundMe run by this very channel. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Regan Benson shut down by Inglewood City Council. YouTuber Regan Benson's planned address to the Inglewood City Council did not go as planned Monday night, as she disobeyed the rules of the council by refusing to give her city of residence before the city council briefly shut down live commenting and turned off her microphone. Benson apparently used Sean Paul Long Island Audit as his tactics and pre-named her stream "Mayor Tries to Throw Me Out Again" before entering the city council chambers, indicating that she fully intended to have a problem during her speaking time. As for her actual live, she started live streaming a few minutes before the meeting started on Monday night, indicated that the Inglewood Public Library is now the center point of the great dictatorship that runs the entire city. She rehashed her version of events that saw charges of harassing a security guard in the spring of 2024 dropped, as the city of Inglewood apparently had no answers to her First Amendment challenge of the policy. A hearing on the library's policy to ban Benson, which had been on hold while charges against Benson were pending, is set for Wednesday. Benson claimed that her lawyer would be vigorously defending her First Amendment rights at the hearing. Benson sat on the table marked media and recorded the city council meeting as there were no chairs in the general vicinity of the table. She swung her legs and mocked the city council in the minutes leading up to her turn to speak. When it was her turn to speak, she took her camera to the podium with her and refused to give her city of origin, talking over Inglewood Mayor Nathaniel Sierra, saying it was her time and she was going to speak for 3 minutes regardless of what the city council did. The mayor shut off her microphone and led the majority of the city council out of the chamber, turning off the feed to the live stream and leaving Benson alone at the podium. City council members Rita Russell and Kim Wright, both seen as allies of Benson, remained in the room to hear her speech. Benson essentially berated the policy of the library for banning her and warned that she would no longer allow Inglewood to carry through policies that she personally disagreed with. This included the limits on the bathrooms in the public library, as she pledged that she would personally end the policy of requiring a key to use the bathroom. When the city council returned, Mayor Sierra ordered her to vacate the speaking podium as her time had elapsed. She returned to the media table and continued to mock the city council before leaving the chamber and briefly encountering a police officer who was having his dinner break and demanding to know if he was still on the clock during his meal. The aggressive Benson followed the officer and another officer to their police vehicles, berating and insulting them, before returning to her car to ask for prayers for longtime supporter Irish Rover, who has refused to leave his home, which is currently in the path of Hurricane Milton in Florida. Lloyd Wallace confirms plans to impregnate next partner. Floyd Wallace's latest livestream on Sunday night saw the YouTuber admit that he was almost too old to be a father and that he had every intention of impregnating his next sexual partner in Colombia, with or without her consent to the pregnancy. Wallace informed his viewers that he had been abstaining for the month in order to save his season for a rendezvous he was planning with a light-skinned woman he had met online from Colombia and had instructed her to get an STD test because he was going to her in order not to waste his season. The YouTuber said that he did not know what the woman did for a living, nor did he care, as he had picked her to be the mother of his future child, claiming that he was turning 29 in December and that his time to be a father was running out, as he did not like the idea that he would be 50 years old when the child turned 20. Wallace said that his relationship with the woman would not be long-term, as he intended on impregnating her, then returning to the United States to face charges for obstruction of an officer in Oklahoma in January if he can get his November court date moved, and then moving on to as many sexual conquests as possible in his possible post-jail extended tour of Brazil. Opening a panel after returning to his new free version of the StreamYard service, Wallace listened to an idea by one of his panelists that he should give up his apartment at the end of the month and put his belongings into storage. Wallace seemed to like the idea, saying he'd put his items in storage in Dallas, Texas, as he was leaving the College Station, Texas area, as it was too hard to find sex with American sorority girls in the area. Wallace also announced that he was moving to South Dakota when he returned to the United States after his sex tours, as the state does not have an income tax. He also assured his fans that he would be finding a remote IT job at some point to maintain his lifestyle, both in the United States and overseas. Turning to his legal woes, he told his panel that he felt his lawyer was trading his blind guilty plea, which Wallace agreed to, where the judge will accept his guilty plea, then be allowed to sentence Wallace to any punishment he feels like handing out, was a trade-off by his lawyer in agreement to get another client off. Wallace said he still intended to fire his attorney in order to get the delay needed for him to stay in Colombia for several months rather than dealing with possible jail time later this year. The YouTuber continued his recent attacks on American women, signaling out black women as being too masculine and too disrespectful for his tastes. He reassured his viewers that he would be taking the time in Colombia to have sex with as many women as possible, briefly forgetting his at least temporary pledge to impregnate the woman he had picked to be the mother of his child. Wallace pushed things further, announcing that he intended to open an OnlyFans with another woman he met online. He assured his fans that the woman was not the stud, and that he would only present pretty women on his live streams in the future. The YouTuber has finally achieved his $78 goal for the second half of the Airbnb costs he had been fundraising for. He then started a new fundraising goal of $287 for his return trip ticket to the United States for his possible flight back to face his criminal charges in November. Strangely, after desperately live-streaming 6 times between Friday and Sunday night, Wallace has again gone silent, with no live streams currently planned. We'll continue our coverage when he streams again. Delete Laws turns fundraiser into circus. 2 days after claiming he had raised $1,300 for hurricane relief efforts, Delete Law's Jose Chile de Castro is facing a backlash from users as he apparently attempted to scrub all evidence of the fundraiser from the internet. De Castro's unusual announcement that he was holding a hurricane fundraiser for North Carolina with fellow YouTuber Alan Hubbs seemed to come out of the blue on Monday afternoon. Hubbs apparently shared with De Castro the state of towns in North Carolina and the urgent need for help in the area, with De Castro deciding to go live to promote the fundraiser soon after. The fundraiser itself seemed to be a burden to De Castro, who was only willing to give an hour of his time and spent the entire time complaining about his low turnout and promoting his conspiracy theory that they are conspiring against him because they know he will be governor of a state he has yet to name and change policing in America. He was not too bothered to use his personal Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, and YouTube accounts to collect money during said fundraiser, promising to show receipts in a YouTube community post down the line before making both videos involving the fundraiser private on his YouTube channel. As of Wednesday morning, DeCastro hadn't followed up as promised. Instead, he posted quotes from an aide to Joseph Stalin on his YouTube community page and went radio silent on Twitter. DeCastro was also rattled on Monday as the first of his 2 live streams, still available on Twitter, saw DeCastro highlight a comment by First Amendment Auditor Christopher D. Ruff, which asks, "Are you grifting off of other people's suffering again, squirt?" The question brought DeCastro to directly challenge D using his fake Southern accent to come through with receipts. He then dropped the voice and called D the most miserable guy in the world, and claimed that D had 5 warrants out of Arizona so he couldn't audit the police. Claiming to be a big D fan at one point, he said he was disappointed that D called him a and claimed that he had stolen money from people without bringing receipts. DeCastro said he felt badly for D, who he claimed looked frail and unhealthy, and to bring the receipts before demanding D bring people to his fundraiser for hurricane relief later that night. The outburst brought even more criticism towards DeCastro as it showed how little DeCastro cared for those he was supposedly helping, taking several minutes to defend his honor against a random rival rather than devote time to the cause he was promoting. DeCastro has also been blasted by YouTuber Frauditor Troll in a recent video. Frauditor Troll pointed out that YouTube has managed fundraisers where they waive their cut of the money pledged through super chats and other donations and send the money directly to established charities. With Hurricane Milton set to hit Florida today and the entire South in the path of destruction, the money raised by DeCastro Monday night could have gone directly to an established charity instead of some random stranger from the internet who promised to fill his truck with supplies to distribute to random people in the hurricane-ravaged area. Neither Hubbs nor DeCastro have provided evidence that any supplies were purchased or distributed to hurricane victims as of press time. Frauditor Troll's YouTube-based hurricane relief efforts have raised a little over $1,000 as of press time. We still need your help. Despite the GoFundMe market being dead, yes, second goose egg day in a row, this publication is funded by your donations along with what little we make off of YouTube each month. Despite achieving full monetization on YouTube, we still need help to get through monthly expenses and keeping the lights on to bring you the paper and the newscast each day. If you can afford it, please consider donating to the GoFundMe run by this channel. All proceeds literally go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch our ads on our videos. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in. Floyd Wallace, out of ideas, counts to 1,400. The return of Floyd Wallace, paired with his new need for $321 towards his fees for his conviction in Texas, which he previously claimed had been paid, a new claim that he was not a and an attempt to count to 1,400 for a $50 donation highlighted Wallace's latest live stream. Starting with the pedophilia claims, Wallace began the show quite angry and claiming that he had to deny the accusations against him that he was speaking of interacting with girls who would be underage in the United States, but not in the countries that Wallace had visited. Wallace would not identify who accused him of pedophilia, nor would he say what country was involved in the accusations. But of all the things that Wallace could be defensive over, a non-issue of Wallace interacting with underage people would probably not be the first choice. The YouTuber literally said that he may impregnate his next partner against her will, that American college girls were too stuck up and worthless to get his affections, that he would be firing his defense attorney to get his trial in Oklahoma delayed, just so he could extend his next sex tour of Colombia. For everything that he could be upset over, being exposed as a pedophile is the least of his worries. Wallace had previously announced that his fines in the Texas case he's on probation for had been paid by a viewer. Apparently that wasn't the case, as suddenly Wallace needed $321 to pay off the fine and to get off of probation. He offered no explanation for it, just that all of a sudden the fines are back and his supporters needed to pay them so he can go on bringing them the further adventures of Floyd Wallace's sex life. Wallace did promise that this time, if he makes it to Colombia, he will go salsa dancing with hot women, and that if he was bribed by his chat, he'll go to the clubs, but he disliked going to the clubs because all the women at the clubs were out to poison his drinks and take his money. The YouTuber did express frustration with his chat as he said that a woman named Priscilla will never again appear on his lives. He said that he had her on once and his entire chat sexually harassed her and tried to make sexually inappropriate comments towards her. He said she was uncomfortable with being on lives, and while they remained friends, she would never again appear due to the conduct of his viewers. He then attempted to open up a panel but specified that he would only allow people on panel who had previously donated to his Cash App. When that attempt failed, as no one wanted to come on panel, he was bribed to attempt to count to $1,400 for a $50 donation. After struggling with his count for over 10 minutes, Wallace finished, only to say he'll never count like that again, turning down more money towards his fines from a request to count to $3,000. Wallace will more than likely stream again on Wednesday. Long Island audit banned from county office building. Sean Paul Long Island Audit Riaz' most recent produced video on his YouTube channel featured his recent visit to the Westchester County office building in Westchester, New York, after seeing his picture on display on a security station inside the building during a video produced by fellow First Amendment auditor auditing Erie County. Riaz's video focused on his current visit to the building where he wanted to access the legal department in order to do a FOIA request. The security guard stationed at the front desk informed him that he needed to fill out his request, and then it would be sent up to the legal department, and Riaz would only be permitted access to the legal department if the department approved his access. Riaz demanded the right to walk through the public building on his own, when he was corrected that it was a private building with public areas. Switching tactics, Riaz asked the security guard, who was later joined by a police officer stationed at the building, why his picture was on display at the security desk. As the police officer confirmed Riaz's identity and looked up why Riaz was banned from the building, Riaz asked if things had changed in the building, as the last time he visited the building, he had free access to all the public areas without question. The security guard informed Riaz that nothing had changed and that Riaz would have to have permission to visit specific floors of the building at the time of his previous visit. Rejoining the group, the police officer informed Riaz that his previous visit was the reason for his photo being on display at the security desk. During that visit, Riaz was given access to a specific area of the building and instead filmed himself roaming the halls of the building, resulting in his complete ban. Riaz later showed footage of himself roaming the building during his previous visit, claiming that he did nothing wrong, and there was no proof that he did anything to deserve the ban. The YouTuber later investigated the parking lot of the building, claiming that there was no signage indicating that it was a private building. He was later joined by the police officer from the security desk, who informed him that he was in a private parking lot and he needed to leave, also showing Riaz the signs that indicated it was a private parking lot. Riaz did not try to argue with the police officer, but threatened a lawsuit for his ban from the building. The video prompted a $10 donation to Riaz's Support Freedom Stand Against Tyranny Together GoFundMe fund, bringing that campaign's total to $4,365 out of a $10,000 goal, and taking the day for the GoFundMe race. We still need your help. Despite the GoFundMe market being dead, this publication is funded by your donations, along with what little we make off of YouTube each month. Despite achieving full monetization on YouTube, we still need your help to get through monthly expenses and keeping the lights on to bring you the paper and the newscast each day. If you can afford it, please consider donating to the GoFundMe run by this very channel. All proceeds literally go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch the ads on our videos, like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in. Benson banned by Inglewood City Council. As she was leaving the bathroom to enter the Inglewood City Council chambers on Wednesday, First Amendment Auditor Regan Benson was approached by Inglewood police officer Orion Watts, who presented her with a 45-day ban from those very Inglewood City Council chambers. Benson was in the building for a hearing on her previous ban from the Inglewood Public Library in the same building for allegedly harassing an Allied security guard in the spring of 2024. That ban, which had been on hold as Benson's criminal charges for the same incident were decided, recently went into effect, and Benson had asked for an independent review of Inglewood's rights to enforce bans. The new 45-day ban prevents Benson from entering the Inglewood City Council chambers effective 4 days after issue, which would be this Friday, allowing Benson to enter her own previously scheduled hearing yesterday. Benson claimed that the service of the notice was timed so that she would be separated from her lawyer, who was in the city council chambers when Benson was served with the notice. Benson claimed that she was not charged with breaking the law on the notice, just that she would be excluded from that portion of the building for violation of a municipal code that governs activities at Inglewood City Council meetings. The ban stems from an incident Monday night where Benson refused to give her town of origin before she began speaking during the public feedback portion of the Inglewood City Council meeting. All speakers are required by Inglewood's municipal code to state their cross streets if they're residents of the city or their town of origin before they begin to speak. Benson refused to do so, then kept talking over Inglewood Mayor Orthanio Sierra, who ordered her to stop speaking. The city council meeting was suspended, and a call apparently was made to Inglewood police to document Benson's actions. Benson refused to leave the city council chambers despite being ordered to by Sierra. Police on scene did not get involved, though Benson verbally attacked and degraded officers on her way out of the building. Despite Benson's claims, Mayor Sierra was acting as the chief administrative officer at the meeting and legally had the right to ask Benson to leave under Inglewood's laws. Benson mocked Sierra in statements made in 2 live streams following service, saying he had no relevance and that she would soon prevail in the lawsuit stemming from her temporary bans from the building. According to Benson, she will be punishing the victim in the original library incident, as the victim showed up to testify via Zoom call on Wednesday. She claimed she had removed the original video of her verbal attack on the man from her YouTube channel, but now claimed that she would put the video back up as punishment for the man testifying against her at the hearing. Benson later did a FOIA request at the Inglewood Police Department for a copy of the audio of the police call reporting her actions and Officer Watts' report on his service of the documents to Benson earlier that day. The YouTuber and activist promised more legal action following Wednesday's developments. Long Island Audit's latest stunt fails to spark donations. With the GoFundMe market quietly dying down to various donations to Sean Paul Long Island Audit Ria's GoFundMe campaigns, following Jose Chile de Castro's departure from the market, Ria's latest stunt on Thursday did little to nothing to spur the market. Riaz went live Thursday morning to pay fees of $426 in coins at the Suffolk County, New York Traffic Violations Bureau for tickets he claimed he got in retaliation for having tint that was too dark under New York state law. The YouTuber had previously gone live from the same building to protest the 4 individual tickets he received for tint violations on his car earlier in the summer. Riaz rejected an offer to consolidate the tickets into 1 violations and said he'd fight it in court. Riaz said his court date had been on Wednesday and he lost badly. In his version of the story, the prosecutors, judge, police, and anyone else associated with the case had all teamed up to collude against him. It was all an extended plot to keep we the people down, as he, being we, did nothing wrong, never broke the law, and it was all punishment for his questioning of police on their cases. Riaz's actual concerns that no one measured the tint on his car with an actual tint checking device before issuing the ticket, or why New York State has such uncompromising rules on window tint, were apparently not addressed at the hearing. The workers at the Suffolk County Traffic Violations Bureau took Riaz's appearance in stride and opened a new window as they set up a change counting machine to take his payment. It took about half an hour for the worker assisting Riaz to get through his giant bag of coins, and she remained friendly and even-handed throughout the experience. According to Playboard, Riaz made $149 off of Super Chat, Super Thanks, and memberships during the early morning event, which was seen 108,000 times as a press time to 12,000 likes and 2,100 comments. A standalone short highlighting the event has done 27,000 views, 2,600 likes, and 231 comments in the same time frame. Riaz's stunt did nothing to spur the GoFundMe market, as there were no new donations to any of his 7 open GoFundMe campaigns. Despite being a major publicity stunt, Riaz forgot to include text advertising for his Cameo service, GoFundMes, and Attorney's Shield promotions in the description of the event, which may have impacted his ability to earn from the stunt. This was another day of goose eggs for the market as a whole and was seen as a lost opportunity for Riaz to make back the rest of the $426 he paid in fines. We still need your help. Despite the GoFundMe market being dead, this publication is funded by your donations along with what little we make off our YouTube channel per month. While we did achieve full monetization on YouTube, we still need help to get through monthly expenses and keeping the lights on to bring you the paper and the newscast each day. If you can afford it, please consider donating to the GoFundMe run by this very channel. All proceeds literally go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch the ads on our videos, like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in. Paranoid Regan Benson returns to the Inglewood Police Department. A clearly disturbed Regan Benson returned to the Inglewood Police Department on Thursday to help a homeless woman named Jen recover her property after serving a 35-day jail sentence in the Arapahoe County Jail. Benson made it clear that she was taking a risk by being at the Inglewood Police Department, as she was sure that prosecutors were working on her arrest warrant over possible charges after receiving a 45-day ban from the Inglewood City Council chambers. The YouTuber updated that case as she said she was working on a code appeal while the council was working on finding someone who would issue an arrest warrant for her, so they could lock her away behind bars and be finally rid of her. If that sounds like Jen was just a pawn for Benson to use as an excuse to rant for an hour and a half, you wouldn't be wrong. Jen mainly wandered around the lobby, then outside to smoke and wander around again as Benson filmed herself doing Benson-y things, including filling out forms and making long rants about Inglewood. At one point, Benson claimed that she had word from a neighbor that 2 Inglewood police cars were parked at the end of her block, despite not living in Inglewood or anywhere near Inglewood. The police cars vanished when the neighbor went back to check them, but Benson used it to provide more proof that her life was in danger as she was in the belly of the beast. Ultimately, the Arapahoe County Jail does not keep belongings. Belongings are returned to the originating police departments and held for 30 days. Jen should have gotten a notice while she was in jail that her belongings would be destroyed after 30 days, and either pick her belongings up herself or have someone pick them up for her. Jen claimed that she did not receive any notice and that her purse containing her Medicaid card, house keys, and money had been destroyed while she was still in jail. Benson filed the FOIA request and saw that the bag was logged as evidence in the case against Jen, then wondered what happened to items marked as evidence since a baggie containing was found inside the purse. A police sergeant was called for. A police sergeant eventually made his way down to speak to Benson, and the police sergeant explained that he was patrol and not operations and couldn't comment on evidence policy. He suggested Benson fill out a report so operations could reply to her. Benson declined, and Benson got to end her 90-minute live stream with an extended rant about Inglewood. Benson was not arrested on the broadcast despite her paranoia, and there are no current warrants for her arrest. DeCastro hides from hurricane inquiries. Delete Law's Jose Chile DeCastro got really loud on both Twitter and his YouTube channel on Thursday, aggressively attacking a female Twitter personality he claimed to be a man, while promoting an emergency cause that suddenly became more important than answering questions about his role in a hurricane fundraiser earlier in the week. DeCastro started the day attacking a Twitter user named Andrea Lynn RN2. The account claimed to be run by a conservative registered nurse who was promoting conservative ideals. DeCastro attacked the account, saying that the picture looked fake and demanding that the person send him a personal video to prove that she looks the way she does. As the owner of the account bantered with DeCastro, it was noted by many that DeCastro himself was using a photo that is several years old on his Twitter and not reflective of his current decrepit state. He then went into his usual boasts about how he's viewed by 40 million people a month and that he's extremely famous on the internet. According to Playboard, backed by DeCastro's own complaints on his YouTube channel, DeCastro hasn't been seen by 40 million people a month in at least 3 months now. In fact, DeCastro hasn't cracked 15 million views on his main YouTube channel in quite some time. The YouTuber is averaging a little over 9 million views per month, with a total of 36.4 million views on his YouTube channel for the period of July through October. For July, he pulled in 12.8 million views for his main YouTube channel. August did slightly better at 14.8 million views. September crashed, however, at 7.6 million views. And his current trend for October has seen him pull in a little over 1.1 million views for the month of October so far. The usual comparison towards our own tiny newscast will be made with DeCastro's fans claiming that we're puny in comparison to his great numbers, which is true. But we don't brag about our numbers, nor do we get into catfights with people on Twitter over who is the most internet famous. DeCastro took in $20 in super chats on his Thursday live stream, a convenient distraction from those calling for updates on his emergency hurricane fundraiser Monday night. He took in $391 in super chats after conversion Monday night, out of the $1,400 he supposedly took in for his hurricane relief efforts. DeCastro, of course, did not show any of the receipts or records of what he did with the money as he promised he would, nor did he follow up with YouTuber Alan Hubbs, who is going to put all the money into a Walmart run, then randomly distribute the supplies he bought to those in need in North Carolina. Again, DeCastro held another emergency live stream on Thursday, this time to go over the case of Don Breezy. DeCastro said he was looking for criminal defense attorneys in Utah and Arizona to help Breezy with problems related to an ongoing dispute with her sister over the custody of her sister's children. Breezy took care of the children while her sister was in jail, and the two have an ongoing conflict since her sister was released from jail. Breezy claims constant harassment from police in multiple states and gained viral fame for yelling at a police officer who had blocked her Ring camera when attempting to serve a warrant. This being DeCastro's cause of the moment, and in celebration of his first full day in his new Los Angeles-based studio, DeCastro went 3+ hours on the subject, boring even his harshest critic into tuning out, rather than pressing him on where the hurricane funding went from his Monday live stream. Again, DeCastro took in $20 in super chats for the nearly 4-hour-long broadcast, offering no answers to critical questions about his ongoing hurricane fund scandal, nor to where the other 32.4 million people came from in his September tally to justify his claims of 40 million views per month. We'll continue to report on the updated DeCastronomics forecast as he's expected to go live again later on Friday. Floyd Wallace threatens to cancel next overseas tour. A surprisingly candid Floyd Wallace pulled a bit of a bait and switch with his followers on Saturday, advertising a special live stream about the cancellation of his planned trip to Colombia for unknown reasons. Wallace was late to his live stream, scheduled for noon Eastern Time, as he was too busy with laundry to make his much-hyped live stream. Then he announced that he hadn't canceled his trip to Colombia, currently scheduled for October 25th, but he could cancel it if his fans did not give him the remaining $146 that he needed to pay for fines from a Texas conviction in September. The YouTuber said that his probation officer recommended against leaving the country before his fines were officially paid. Wallace later added a deadline of this Tuesday for his fines to be paid, or else he would need to cancel the trip. An animated Wallace interacted with his side chat, at times demanding super chats from his fans to answer questions posed to him, other times answering questions, including those posed to him about his legal cases from this reporter, without the need for payment. Wallace ignored inquiries into the state of his still active GoFundMe account, stating that he would only answer inquiries about his account if they were accompanied by a super chat. His dismissal brought no new funding to his ongoing campaign, as it sits at $410 out of a $3,000 goal. Our own ongoing expenses campaign took the day for Friday with a rare $10 donation. Wallace was angered at times by the lack of payment from his side chat, though he took in $57 in super chats during the live stream. The YouTuber only applied $17 towards his fine during the live stream after saying he needed to borrow $10 from a friend, which brought his fine down to $131. That's $15 with a $2 processing fee at the end of the live stream. The YouTuber seemed rattled when he was asked directly by this reporter about his November 14th hearing in Oklahoma for his 2023 charges of interfering with an officer. He again stated that he was going to fire his current attorney and cause a delay to search for a new attorney to push back his court date to accommodate travel plans. Wallace said he was currently paying $1,500 to file a plea deal to his current attorney, which he will be canceling as he felt that a further delay was warranted in this case as he now wanted to take the case to trial. Currently, Wallace is scheduled for a blind plea in the case on November 14th, where he has already agreed to plead guilty and allow for the judge to determine his sentence. He told this reporter not to get attached to the date as it would be changing. Wallace refused several semi-serious offers to pay his fine completely by his chat, including one that would have given him $200 to code approach women on the campus of the University of Texas at Austin. The YouTuber declined, insisting he would need at least $350 as he would need gas and food money to make the 3-hour trip. After over an hour of interacting with his chat, the YouTuber essentially rage quit, as he had already turned off his camera and complained loudly about the lack of financial participation from his chat. At one point, Wallace played the race card, stating that if he were Chile DeCastro, who he called a white man, despite DeCastro identifying as Colombian in origin, people would have thrown money at him and his fines would have been paid in minutes. A dejected Wallace said that he would return to live stream again later Saturday. Wallace has since removed the live stream from public view. We still need your help. Despite the GoFundMe market being dead, this publication is funded by your donations, along with what little we make from our YouTube channel per month. While we did achieve full monetization on YouTube, we still need help to get through the monthly expenses and keeping the lights on to bring you the paper and the newscast each day. If you can afford it, please consider donating to the GoFundMe run by this very channel. All proceeds literally go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch the ads on our video, like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in. James Freeman to headline Lexington Takeover. YouTuber Ron of Guerrilla Publishing announced on his Friday night livestream that auditing superstar James Freeman Springer would be headlining the Lexington Takeover gathering set for Lexington, Mississippi next week. The takeover is set for October 14th to October 16th, 2024, and participants are expected to be at the Holmes County Courthouse in Lexington at 9 a.m. starting on the 14th to protest Ron's arrest earlier in the month for recording inside a police department in Lexington. Ron claimed to be investigating the Lexington police force after learning that the Justice Department was investigating it for unlawful cash bail practices, unlawful arrests, wrongful use of a taser, and other charges. He asserts that he had been unlawfully arrested by Lexington police and promised further action, stating that he should have known that the police force would stoop to unlawful arrest after seeing a lackluster video of an attorney being arrested for filming at the same police station. Ron said he was not discouraged by possible future action against him at next week's protests. The YouTuber announced that he had received $500 in donations from a supporter that will cover the cost of staying at a campground for the week and the cost of driving to Lexington in his diesel-powered camper, which he claims gets 8 miles per gallon. James Freeman will be the guest of honor at the 3-day gathering, as Josh Accountability for All Abrams declined to come due to family issues. All Super Chat and PayPal donations to Ron's accounts will go to Freeman's expenses, traveling from New Mexico to Mississippi in his van. If successful, this would be the second mass gathering of the First Amendment auditors this year, after a similar one-day takeover of Union City, New Jersey, earlier this summer in support of Leonard Leroy Truth Filipowski. Other than Ron from Guerrilla Publishing and Freeman, no other guests have been confirmed for the 3-day protest. No mention was made of Delete Law's Jose Chile de Castro, who has proclaimed himself the leader of all American First Amendment auditors, nor National Secretary of Auditing audit them as possible attendees. Ron scoffed at critics who said that only people with balls go to jail, and assured his followers that he will always attempt to talk his way out of possible arrests. He continued to state that an arrest doesn't prove anything for the cause, and in most cases is just a waste of time. He reminded his followers that everyone is supposed to be at the Holmes County Courthouse in Lexington at 9 a.m. on Monday for the start of the protest before ending his live stream. Delete Law's De Castro shows hurricane receipts. Fans of Delete Law's Jose Chile de Castro got what they wanted to see Friday night as he devoted the first hour of his 2-hour live stream to showing what he claimed to be receipts from his hurricane fundraiser Monday night, while others questioned de Castro's involvement and evidence. De Castro started the hour with a graphic of what he said were donations from his Cash App and PayPal accounts, which consisted of a collage of names taken from his payment apps, along with amounts of donations. Some said hurricane or hurricane-related notes with them, and they all appeared to be from Monday night. His detractors were quick to criticize his efforts, as the YouTuber could have just used his PC to provide a clear listing of all the donations from his actual pay sites, which would have cleared up any questions lingering from the donations, but did not do so. The screen was labeled that the amount listed was approximately $667, when it was in fact $687.88, with at least one of the donations completely obscured. He then showed what he said to be a screen capture from Zelle, which showed he took in $390 in donations, and another screenshot he announced as a partial list of super chats from Monday night, which he claimed totaled $277.92. Please note that Playboard shows De Castro taking in $391 in super chats Monday night, which would account for the donations De Castro said were missing from his YouTube tally. He showed a partial text message from Alan Hubbs, who put the campaign together, that he spent $1,259.60, then another indicating that he sent Hubbs $1,360 on Zelle. Hubs would later show receipts from Walmart for $540.98 and $533.75, with the rest of the funds raised supposedly going to fuel and food costs along the way to North Carolina and back. DeCastro played a video from Hubs that showed a still frame picture of a bed of a truck fully loaded with what looked like supplies, along with a sign indicated that it was from Delete Laws, misspelling Delete Laws with an S. He later played video from Hubs that showed storm damage and footage of a pastor apparently thanking Hubs for a donation. No video was played of Hubs distributing the food to the people he claimed to distribute it to, as DeCastro called the very idea of filming someone receiving the aid as cringe. Despite DeCastro's own previous history of showing himself handing out 5A cop cards and trifolds for promotional use to strangers, he said that he hated the practice as filming strangers receiving things was tacky. In a strange interlude, DeCastro interjected that the World Trade Center attack happened on his 27th birthday, and he and some friends had decided that they would load up a truck and drive to New York to help rescue efforts. He wrote to someone in charge of rescue operations, who told him not to come, as they would only be in the way, and after a lot of banter, DeCastro decided not to go. He thanked the men in hindsight as he announced that all of the first responders who worked at Ground Zero got cancer and other illnesses and are dead. Hubs, without the involvement of DeCastro, stated that he managed to distribute his goods, mostly water, salt, bananas, packages of fresh chicken, painkillers, oranges, and allergy medicine, to those he says needed it. DeCastro praised him for bypassing the Red Cross, who could theoretically use the money to get better deals on food through existing connections, as he did not believe in the bureaucracy of the Red Cross and that the Red Cross had not set up yet in the area of the hurricane. The second hour of DeCastro's Friday broadcast went from showing sketchy receipts to playing his normal anti-police videos. He offered his thoughts and prayers to YouTuber The Angry Vet, who apparently is facing jail time next week, and promised that his new Team DLZ website would be up and running tomorrow. DeCastro said he didn't like the way he had the lighting set up in his new studio, which made him appear to be his actual age with near white hair, and that he needed to slow down because he was burning himself out too quickly. The YouTuber reminded his fans that he was not doing so well financially at this time, and that he'd only be able to send fans who wanted free merchandise digital copies of his materials, as he implied that he could no longer afford shipping on free merchandise. DeCastro is expected to live stream again later today.